Right, hello. My name's Oliver Scofield. I'm the Salesforce architect at the National Audit Office, and this evening I'm going to share with you a talk about how to supercharge your Sandbox Refresh and basically how I saved our developers at the NEO quite a bit of time. So at the National Audit Office we have a number of applications on our Salesforce, and these require a lot of reference and setup data, which is stored in objects. So when you're creating a sandbox, all of this data is not coming across. So this means that developers are spending hours and hours of time loading in this reference data just to make the application functional before they can start to actually do any of their development stuff. This led to a reluctance for them to use the smaller developer sandboxes, which sort of caused some various oversubscribing in full copy and partial sandboxes. I kind of knew that we could do something about this because, like many of you, I've seen the sandbox options page, knowing that we can run Apex classes as part of this Salesforce refresh, the Sandbox refresh. So I looked into this a little bit further, and we have a Sandbox post refresh class, and as you can see, it's a global class. It implements an interface, a Sandbox post copy. It has a single method, run Apex class, which essentially allows us to run Apex within the context of our refresh or creation of the sandbox. Within this method we can call various other methods, and this is essentially the pattern that I adopted here. Essentially that means that you can unit test them separately from the interface, and it makes it more flexible and reusable. The methods themselves follow a test factory style, in that what we're doing here is we're just creating a list of records and returning that list to our main class and then doing the inserts in that class. In this example, we're just setting up some time periods that our application needs. And as you can see, we only need a handful of these time periods to make the application functional, so we can use a simple loop to be able to set these things up. We can also use things that do come across within the Sandbox refresh, such as metadata. So we can use a pick list. In this example, what we're going to do is we're going to create some rate cards, and we're going to grab the role pick list field using the schema class, and then we're going to grab the pick list values. Whoa. And we're going to loop through these values, through these pick list values, and create a rate card for every one of the values in the pick list, and the role will get the value of the pick list that we're currently looping through. We can also use a list of users. So with our users will come across as data, so we can go and grab those. In this example, we're grabbing all the users who have a system administrator profile, and what we're doing is essentially we're looping through these and creating a contact for every one of the users in our collection, and passing in the field names to populate our contacts. What else can we do? We can use static resources to set up our data. In this scenario, I opted to query some production data, and essentially in a developer console, and I'm sending this into a JSON string, and I'm then copying the JSON string into my static resource, and then over in the sandbox, I'm going to unpack the static resource. I'm then going to deserialize this back into its object, and then I'm going to do a deep clone on this list, so that I can remove any IDs that have come across from production and insert those records. You can do this with if you want to maybe you're working with a set of accounts and you need to replicate the structure of those accounts. Maybe you want that to work with that hierarchy. And if you are going to load child records, it's probably worth considering using external ID so that you can map the two things back together again. We can also use the interface to scramble information. So if you are working in a partial or a full copy sandbox, we can loop through the existing data in the sandbox and then essentially loop through those collections and provide and do whichever method of scrambling you prefer. You can take the email addresses and simply reverse all the characters, and essentially they won't send out, and you'll have no problem in accidentally sending out an email. So, testing. This is really simple. Because we put our methods in a separate class, we can unit test those separately, and all we've got left to do is test the interface itself, the main class. So Salesforce have actually provided us with a special class to be able to do this. So we have a system.test method that's going to do that. All I need to do then is to remember, when I get to the sandbox options page, is to put the name of my class in it. Of course, if I forget to do that, I can still run my setup code from the developer console in my sandbox because I put the methods in a separate class. So, finally, why do I have a picture of the harbour at the Isles of Scilly? This is where I grew up. It's where I feel safe. It is my safe harbour, my safe harbour slide. That is a safe harbour statement. Don't take my word for it. Try this out for yourself and build up your own points of reference. If you've got a test factory lying around with code in it, you can probably utilise that code to use in this context to set up your sandbox refresh. So thank you very much.